In today's video, I wanted to do a tank tour of my Waterbox Reef LX. My tank has been up and running now since December 2023, so I thought it would be a good time to discuss what I have done to it, what I have changed, and the future possibilities. All right, let's get into it. So right in behind me is my Waterbox Reef LX. I purchased this during Blue Friday 2023 directly from Waterbox, and it was delivered about a week later. Overall, this tank, the aesthetics on it is just amazing. We look at the top, it is a Euro braced system. This is the 290.6 model, so this is the smallest of the Reef LX family from Waterbox, and what powers it are three XR30s. This XR30 here is a Gen 6, this one is a Gen 5, and this one is a Gen 6. I also run two automatic fish feeders on it as well. I have one on the left side of the aquarium, and then I also have one on the right side of the aquarium. In the fish feeders, I use PE mysis pellets. The tank finally cycled around the middle of January, so it was about a 4 or 5 week process from once it was set up. And at the time, I was running a 150 gallon, but that has since been torn down and everything has been moved into here. So over on this rock, I have my Euphilia. In the middle of the aquascape is where I am keeping my acros. And then over on the left side is kind of a mixture of everything. My A-cans are all down here. I have a Zoa island here. My green bubble coral is back there in the back. My GSP is also on an island back there in the back. And all of my fish and everything have also been moved as well from the 150 gallon over here. So on the Euphilia side, I have a golden torch. I also have a green torch, which he appears closed up right now. And then I also have a frog spawn and also a hammer as well. For flow, I am running two MP40s. I have one MP40 that is mounted there in the back. I also run two XF 330s from MaxSpect. I have a gyro pump on each side. Now, one thing I learned about the XF 330s is they're only meant to be used on 1/2 inch glass. So I did have to upgrade the magnets on these to the XF 350s. If we visit the other side, I have another MP40, and then there is the other XF 330 Cloud Edition gyro pump on this side as well. Another thing I ran next to my tank is I installed all of these shelves. This is where I keep the most of the essentials of what I use on a day-to-day basis for this aquarium. And another thing that I also like to keep running next to it as well is a CO2 monitor. And this will allow me to see if the CO2 in my room is really, really high. And typically when we see this thing get elevated, we'll usually open up a window so that way we can get some fresh air in here. To give you a look at what powers this tank, inside of the sump I run a Red Sea Reef Mat 1200. That is connected to the primary drain. The skimmer I run is a Toonsy DC 9410. And then I also have a Red Sea Reef Mat 250 connected to the secondary drain. This aquarium does use the bean animal setup, which means it has 3 drains, a primary, secondary, and an emergency. In my refugium, I am growing Chaeto, and with that, I also have the Clearwater CW100 as well. In the back, we can see my drains. I also have some lines that come out of the wall in the back that allow me to take advantage of automatic water changes and auto top off as well. That drain right there in the middle with the square. That is actually a drain that I plumbed in all the way to the basement, and that allows me to do some testing up here that would require the fluids to be put into a waste, and it drains directly into the sewer the way it's plumbed. I also run the Reef Breeders return pump on this setup, and this setup is powered by the GHL ProFlux 4. Let's go back and take a look at the skimmer. I also run ozone on this, and it is also hooked up to a recirculating CO2 scrubber as well. On the other side of my sump, we can see the Poseidon ozone generator. We can also see that I'm also running and taking advantage of UV. This is the Lifeguard Aquatics 3-inch UV sterilizer. I believe it is the 55 watt version. And I am also using the KH director as well to monitor the KH in my aquarium. The KH director requires 3 dosing pump heads off of one of their 2.1 dosers. So the 4th dosing head is actually connected to a dosing container. And with this dosing container, I am dosing Alpha Reef. We can also see the recirculating CO2 scrubber. And then for the ozone, I am running a pump. This ozone pump pulls in fresh air. It's connected to the BRS Jumbo air dryer, which then feeds the air through the ozone generator. And then there's a line that runs all the way back from the ozone generator here and is connected into the Toonsy DC skimmer right here. Now, if we look at my controller board on this side of the aquarium, the controller board on this aquarium is located on the right side as you're facing it. And we can see everything in here that makes this thing tick. Down at the bottom is a GHL ProFlux 4 expansion box. And on that expansion box, I am running the ORP temp probes to help monitor the aquarium. I also have one of the GHL breakout boxes, and I've got the Reef Breeders Nautilus connected directly into that, so I'm able to control the return pump via the controller. So one thing that's nice about the Reef Breeders return pump is it supports a 0 to 10 volt interface, so that way it can connect to any aquarium controller that supports 0 to 10 volt for adjusting the flow directly from the controller. And it's also quite an affordable solution if you're wanting to save some money on a return pump. This is the Toonsy DC controller for their skimmer. This is the gyro pump interface for the 2 gyro pumps that I'm running. Right here are my MP40 controllers, and those are wired into the Ecotech battery backup. And if we look along the back side of the aquarium, this is where my energy bars for the P4 are connected. I actually have those mounted to the wall. There are 2 on the right side, and then there are also 2 on the left side. The 2 on the left side are actually connected to this UPS unit. The devices on the left side are the devices that I consider most essential during a power outage. All right, let's head downstairs and we'll take a look at the saltwater mixing station that powers the Waterbox Reef LX. There and behind me is the saltwater mixing station that I built specifically to use with the new Waterbox Reef LX. Those lines we saw earlier in the sump area of the aquarium actually come down from the floor there and then run down the wall where they connect into these dosers. I also run 2 55-gallon Brute trash cans. The first one here is the RODI water, and then they are plumbed together down here via this pump, and then this one would be my salt water. I am currently in the process of making new salt, so let's take a quick peek and let's see what that is at. So typically I always find that my Hanna checker is always around 0.02 to 0.03 off from what my refractometer reads. So I would expect my refractometer right now to read around 1020 on that. So I'm going to go ahead and add some more salt into that. There's 1 cup, 2, and 3. I'll let that mix up and I'll check it again here in a few. My saltwater mixing station, I run 2 dosing pumps down here. This dosing pump here is what is used for automatic water changes. This is the new water. The new water has a line that is plumbed in behind the saltwater mixing reservoir down at the bottom. And then the old line actually pulls the old water out, and what it actually does is it sends the water across over here into this reservoir. In this reservoir, I take advantage of the ReefBot lab to where I'm able to do some additional water testing from my old water that was pulled out during the water change, and I can test things like calcium, alkalinity, and magnesium. Down here as well on my RODI system, I run an aquatic auto flush kit. This lets me do automatic flushes while the RO system is running. My RODI system says it's a 75 gallon per day 4-stage system, but it's actually been upgraded with a 100 gallon per day membrane here and a 100 gallon per day membrane here, which gives me 200 gallons per day. And then at the end of my RO system, I keep 2 additional DI resin cans in the event this one ever gets emptied. And the second dosing pump that is down here is another GHL Doser Maxi. This is what I actually use for auto top off. This line actually is plumbed in and connected at the bottom of my RO reservoir. Anytime it needs topped off, it'll pull the water up through here and then send it through this line, and it runs back to the tank. Now I do have some additional projects that are going on down here as well. I did have a male blue trigger that was up in the display tank in the water box as well, but he had to get moved back to my quarantine tank because he was getting picked on by my blue hippotang and had stress marks all over him. But on the bright side, he is eating, and it looks like he's going to make a full recovery. Some other projects that are going on is I am currently working on a build out of a new quarantine tank system as well. This tank here will serve as both a future quarantine and frag tank. It is a 40-gallon breeder, and it will have a 20-gallon long sump. This build is going to be powered by a hydros. That is my Waterbox Reef LX and future projects that I am working on in a nutshell. I have also sent off an ICP test for my water box as well, but unfortunately the first one I sent got lost, so I got in contact with ATI. They provided me with a new shipping label to send in new samples. So I'm hoping to have those back, and I'll share those results in a future video. So be sure to hit that subscribe button. And for today's video, I think that's going to wrap it up. And until the next one, guys, I'm out. Peace.